and put the park back and make it a nicer place. And they called me up and said, "Hey, Howard, can you light Bryant Park?" I said, "Sure, I'd love to do it." They came and said, "Well, we got this Bryant Park. Can you do it for 250? Can you light the park for $250,000?" I said, "Certainly." You know, I knew you couldn't even wire the park for $250,000, but I wasn't going to tell the guy who was asking me this, so I took the job. And I immediately called the chairman of the library. You know, I did a master plan for lighting the park, $2.5 million worth of lighting. And I called the chairman of the New York Public Library, and I said, "I'd like to show you this plan of how this park really should be lighted." It's a historically famous park. The very historically famous architect, Carrera and Hastings, and we can't do this for $250,000. And I showed him this, and he just said, "My God, look at this." And Andrew Heiskell is one of the finest gentlemen there is. And he said, "You're right." He said, "We just need to raise another couple of $1 million. You stopped too short in the fundraising drive." He said, "Wait a minute." He called Frank Stanton, who was formerly the head of CBS. And he said, "You got to see what I've got in front of me here. You got to come over and meet with me and Howard, and we'll go over this." And the two of them looked at each other, and we went out. I talked the city of New York into putting an extra $500,000 into the park, and some other very nice. Got Walter Annenberg's sister. You know, when I did University of Pennsylvania master plan, to put in $1 million, and a few other guys chipped in a little money, and we did it. And it's right, and the place is so successful. It's marvelously successful, and it raised the entire economic base of that area.
Okay.
Changed.
But you haven't told me what you did to the park to make it work. You're not giving me any secrets here, Howard.
There's no secret to it. It's very, very simple. What do you want in a park? A park is a place that closes after dark. But it still doesn't mean that it doesn't have venues, it doesn't have nice, night events and things like that. So you need a little light. Well, Carrera and Hastings did wonderful post lanterns around the library that belonged around the park. So we had to do not exact reproductions because they wouldn't fit, but we had to do new post lanterns that were totally the same as, or appeared to be the same as, the Carrera and Hastings post lanterns. They set the perimeter of the park. The next layer in the park were the familiar New York City park lights. The next layer was, in order to get a much more gentle cast, was we put a sort of one scale up multiple of moonlight permanently cast on the park from the NYNEX building across the street. We got 12 stadium floodlights and mounted them up there. And it's so high in the sky you don't even know they're there. So there's this wonderful all-pervasive glow in the park with a little creation of entry, pathway, linger spaces, sit on the bench, and that place is jammed with people. And it's again a thing of what it is you need to make a park like this a wonderful place, especially a wonderful place behind the New York Public Library. I did all the centennial lighting for the public library, all 85 branches for their centennial. And we did very, very simple things. And none of this is in a sense a lighting tour de force. They are geared to the needs of New Yorkers, visitors, scholars, writers, artists, and other people, other thoughtful people who come and use that place as a resource, a source of inspiration, and making it a joyous place to come to, and not a risk, which it was when the park was the cesspool of drug and other abuse. It was a refuge for all of those people. Now it is a refuge for everybody, every tourist, every visitor. And as long as you're focusing on what the end result is and not on the lighting, you'll probably do good lighting. Now, not many people really do this. Not many people had the benefit of developing a career through many media that I had.
So you think it has to do with exposure to lots of elements and lots of different aspects?
And lots of brilliant people. My, contact with Leon Friend, Gustav Bloom, Vance Morton, Stanley McCandless, and all the others, who were in that league, Eddie Cook, Sonny Sonnenfeld, and Tyrone Guthrie, George Eisenhower. I mean, you're talking about really great people. So there's such an opportunity to learn. George Eisenhower wasn't the devil's advocate. He was the devil's disciple.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
There was, if you weren't doing something different, something new, and you weren't advancing the ability to do theater as a creative art, you were going backwards. And if you're following the rules, you're going backwards. If you think there are good products, you're going backwards. If you're relying on that product to do your job, you got to be relying on the light to do the job.
We're almost done with this tape. We need to put in another one. In fact, what I'd like to do, I'd like